Oh, what a day of racing we had in the 2025 Giro d'Italia Stage 9. Gravel roads, Tuscan hillside, and a finish in Piazza del Campo, that iconic piazza here in the heart of Siena. And some of the fans' favorites took control today. And before I get to the results, I want to let you know this Giro d'Italia coverage is brought to you by Bicycle, the best place to buy and sell pre-owned bikes online. Head on over to bicycle.com/FloBikes, list your bike in minutes, and sell to cyclists worldwide and get your 30% off seller discount code. Now, the stage winner, well, you wanted it, you got it, your hearts were there for it. Wout van Aert. Yeah, just when you had your doubts, he delivered. His 50th career win. I think he has something like 8 stages in the Tour de France. He's got a Milano-San Remo, he's got an Amstel Gold, and he's got a Strade Bianche. A Strade Bianche win in that race covers some of the same roads we covered today, some of those same gravel sectors, and finishes in the same square, Piazza del Campo, right over my shoulder. Wout van Aert showed well in the first stage in Tirana in Albania, but he didn't seem to look to his best. He had that nasty crash in the Vuelta a España last year, and we didn't think he could pull it off, but he surprised us all and did it over Isaac del Toro, the Mexican sensation. 20 years old, I think, or 21. You'll have to check out his age, but he's young, just on the scene. Last year, his first pro year with UAE Team Emirates, and he picked up the Milano-Torino win earlier this season, and today, well, he didn't get the victory in the 2-up over Wout van Aert, but in the Campo, he was able to pick up the famous Maglia Rosa and I think secure his place as team leader in UAE Team Emirates. But we're going to have to dive into that over the next 2 weeks because there's a lot of head scratching as if it's Juan Ayuso. Is it Isaac del Toro? Who the heck's in charge in that team? We just don't know. We're going to be pulling for Isaac del Toro. This kid is the real deal. Keep an eye on him as we go ahead in the race. Now, as we roll it back, we had a long day. We started off in Gubbio, I think around 180 kilometers. We had 5 sectors, totaling 30 kilometers of gravel. First sector, second sector, and that's where it all happened. We had this escape of 6 or 7 that formed. In that move was American from Soudal Quick-Step, Luke Lamperti. Also key, we had 2 Alpecin riders, Caden Groves, Quinton Hermans. But none of that mattered because when we got on that second sector, they got swept up. And that's when all the action happened because we had a crash up front. It was Team Ineos Grenadiers who was riding so strongly during the day, working for Egan Bernal. It was also Team Ineos Grenadiers who, well, they caused the crash. Lucas Hamilton went down first, and then he took down also Primoz Roglic. He also briefly involved Juan Ayuso. Tom Pidcock, who was riding so strong during the day as UAE Team Emirates working so well today. And then, of course, it was Q36.5 for Tom Pidcock. Tom Pidcock was knocked out. As I mentioned, Primoz Roglic, also Brandon McNulty. So much blood out there. We thought he might bleed out before the end of the race finish. So I hope he's okay. But that really shuffled things up because as all that chaos was happening, it was Isaac del Toro going up the road. It was Ineos continuing on with their plan because along with Egan Bernal up the road, we have a Rensman. We also had Brandon Riviera, who was working for their team leader, Colombian national champion, Egan Bernal, putting the plan in place. In that group, Isaac del Toro was not working so much. He didn't need to because Team Ineos Grenadiers was doing the muscle work. Also, Wout van Aert was not working. He had Simon Yates, the GC leader, in the back, and we were watching those GC groups as we covered Sector 3 and as we were approaching Sector 4 and Sector 5 because it was bad news for Primoz Roglic. He also had to change a tire, change his wheel. Also, that was the case with Tom Pidcock. Had to change his wheel twice, I think, and he came in minutes later behind all the groups today after hoping for something special here on the Strade Bianche where he's won in the past. I think it's 2023 or so. You'll have to check the numbers. I'm not quite sure. So that didn't play out well. Primoz Roglic at one point was only 20 seconds away from the Juan Ayuso group, but then it drifted off to 1 minute. In there, he had Giulio Pellizzari working for him, but they just couldn't close that gap. And when I spoke to Primoz Roglic there at the finish, his whole left side was covered in blood, scrapes all over the place. He hugged his wife, hugged his children. It was a rough day out for Primoz Roglic. We hope he bounces back. Now, up front, what was happening? Well, before we had the group of Van Aert and Del Toro, unfortunately, Egan Bernal was distanced and he was drifting back to the GC group there with Simon Yates and Ayuso. But Egan Bernal and Ineos really put on a show today, and that's going to be a huge bump, a huge lift for Egan Bernal. Up front, we were watching what was happening with Del Toro, because on Monteperti, he attacked. Then again, on Colle Pinzuto, those are the climbs that feature Colle Pinzuto. That climb features in Strade Bianche, and that's the climb that made all the difference. Van Aert hung in. Van Aert refused to work too much with him, and then it all came down to that Santa Caterina, that climb there at 1 kilometer to go, but that takes us to the Piazza del Campo. And, well, we had our doubts. Sorry, Wout van Aert. We had our doubts. What was possible? He hung on Del Toro's wheel up that climb, and at one point, up at the top of the climb, before they rounded that right-hand turn where Tadej Pogačar usually waves at the photographers and the TV cameras on his way to victory in the Campo, well, Van Aert seemed to be gapped off and really on the edge. He pulled himself back together there on those flats, on those roads leading in to the square. He passed Del Toro. That final right-hand turn, he nearly overshot the corner, right up against the barriers and kept charging to the line. Del Toro completely looked upset, but you can't blame him. He's young. He wanted the victory. Van Aert used his age, used his experience to get that one over Del Toro, and oh, what an emotional victory for Van Aert there. Roared into the Campo, roared into the square, hugged his wife, hugged his children, let out a loud roar to the fans, was waving to everyone. This one meant a lot. He's eaten pizza in the square. He's cramped leading to the square. He's won in that same square. And he's trained over the coming weeks, over the previous weeks leading into the Giro d'Italia. He trained all on these roads. It even said the police had stopped him as he was trying to ride on some of the pedestrian roads to train and get ready for this stage here. But he'd been feeling sick before the Giro d'Italia, so we all had our doubts. But today, he proved us wrong. And today, we saw the GC battle just turned on its head, because Juan Ayuso's group coming in at 1 minute back. And in fact, now if you look at the GC as well, Del Toro on top of his own teammate, setting second overall, the Spaniard Juan Ayuso. Del Toro, by the way, first Mexican ever to pull on the pink jersey, the Maglia Rosa. In that group, well, we also had Simon Yates. We had some of the other favorites. Egan Bernal. We have to look further back, because it was Derek G who had a bad puncture at a bad time today, right around that time of the crash. He was in that group 2 minutes and some 22 seconds or something back with Primož Roglič, and it's not great for Primož, the star rider, the star champion coming into this race, the 2023 Giro d'Italia winner. He's now got to fight back. He's going to recoup and think ahead as we go into the next 2 weeks, and we got the big mountains ahead. Primož has been in this position before. If anybody can come back and pull off the victory, it's the Slovenian. But now UAE is in charge. They're in charge with Isaac Del Toro. They're in charge with Juan Ayuso. The question is, after all the dust settles, who's going to be the team leader? We don't know. And frankly, this team never rides very organized without Tadej Pogačar. And even with Tadej Pogačar in the race, it still doesn't ride very organized. So questions will come in the next 2 weeks, and we hope to find some answers. But we love the drama all the same. And oh, what a day of drama. What a day of racing over the Tuscan roads, over the gravel to lead to Piazza del Campo, celebrating a victory, a much-needed victory for Wout van Aert, who hadn't won since Kern Brussels Kern back in 2024 at the early start of the spring. Now he does it after the Vuelta a España victory, and we get a new rider, a new name, Isaac Del Toro in the pink jersey, closing out this first phase, this first chapter of the 2025 Giro d'Italia.